Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I don't know if you guys have seen this incident yet, but this was down in Tennessee. I think it was Shelby County, Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. I probably am. But this is an incident where a deputy had a vehicle stopped. The suspect was out of the car. He let the suspect get back into the car, tried to stop the suspect from driving away. He then jumped in the car with the suspect, was taken down the road, fired one round into the suspect's chest area. I believe he was shot through the lung and heart from an article that I saw. The suspect died, but not before kicking the deputy out of the car. While he was driving down the road, this deputy sustained very serious injuries, and the suspect died in this case. There's a lot of people focusing on the deputy getting into the car and being driven down the road, causing him to discharge his weapon and kill this young man. But the part that I want to talk about is everything that happened before that. This is something I've talked about in my videos before, and I want to talk about subject control during a traffic stop. And not necessarily just during a traffic stop, but controlling your suspects when you're on a scene. I think that this is one of the most important things that's being overlooked by police officers in today's world. And one of the reasons why they are overlooking it is because they're afraid of looking like they're too eager to go hands-on, because we see a lot of cell phone videos and stuff of police officers on traffic stops where if a suspect isn't doing exactly what they want, they're using force in this guy. They're trying to tackle him on the ground, they're trying to arm bar him, do all this stuff, and you have these suspects walking around saying, "What are you doing? You're doing too much. This isn't necessary. This is just a traffic stop." You know, and I think it was down in Cincinnati, Ohio. The district attorney even said something like officers are using force on people for chicken shit reasons like expired license plates. That was a couple of years ago. No, the officers aren't using force on people because they're breaking traffic laws. They're using force on people because they're putting the officer in a dangerous position during a traffic stop. And those are two very different things. But regardless of that, I'm seeing a lot of reluctance in officers to go hands-on with people, and unfortunately that is getting them hurt and getting suspects killed in multiple occasions that we've seen here recently. So that's what I want to talk about today. So this is the dashboard camera. We also have the cruiser, or the body-worn camera footage of him. But just for those of you who don't know, this is the incident that we're talking about. Here's a news article. Is the first headline that popped up when I Googled it. Video shows traffic stop that ended with Jarvion, sorry about the name, Hudspeth, dead and a deputy injured. A video from the fatal shooting involving a Shelby County deputy in June was released by the district attorney. Jarvion Hudspeth, 21, was shot and killed by a deputy during a traffic stop on the 24th. You know, and then it goes down. There's not a lot really to this article. One thing I wanted to highlight was this quote by Ben Crump. Ben Crump said, "This officer was not dragged. This officer jumped into the car." Sounds like the officer just pulled over a vehicle, jumped in as the suspect drove away, and then he shot and killed the guy for absolutely no reason, right? Obviously, there's a lot more to this than that, and that's what we're going to be going over today. So here is the body camera footage. We're going to watch this footage. I'm going to show you the things that stand out to an experienced police officer that are danger cues, that if the officer had picked up on these danger cues, it would not have escalated to that point, because he should have been using force, going hands-on much sooner than when the guy started to drive away. So here we are, we're at the car. I don't remember exactly what point I have it paused at, but he's asked him for his driver's license. He's going to get a driver's license. He's going to ask for insurance. Guy's not going to be able to produce insurance. The officer is asking him questions like, "Do you have anything in the car I need to know about?" While asking those questions, the guy can't produce insurance. He says, "You know what? I'm going to have you step out of the car. I'm going to pat you down." I don't know if in Tennessee they have a law where you have to have insurance. If it's like something that you can cite for. In Ohio, you can't cite for that. But regardless of the fact, it doesn't really matter why he pulls this man out of the car. The thing that matters is he has the right to pull anybody out of a car that he wants to during a traffic stop. A traffic stop is a detention. You are detained. Doesn't matter if you're detained in the front seat of your car or in the back seat of mine. You are still detained just the same. And if I ask you to get out of the car, you have to get out of the car. So that's about what we're doing.
I do have my firearm right here. Okay. Anything in your pockets? No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
So The deputy asked him multiple times before this, do you have anything in the car? And the guy's like, no. Then when he gets out of the car, he kind of looks back in the car. You know what? I do have my firearm in the car. And the deputy just goes, okay, do you have anything on you? Let's go back a little bit further and listen to that again. Right here.
I do have my firearm right there.
Okay. Anything in your pockets?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Am I wrong?
I do have my firearm right there.
Okay.
Yeah, he says,
anything in your pockets right there for me?
I do have my firearm right there. And the deputy says, okay, do you have anything in your pockets? So then the deputy's like, you know what? I'm going to take you to the back of the car. I'm going to pat you down, make sure I have any weapons. That's the next part of this particular traffic stop. I think that the deputy did not hear the part about the firearm at all, because I would have asked more questions. But regardless, here we are at the back of the car. He's about to do a pat down for weapons.
I'm just going to pat you down. No, hands on the back for me. Appreciate it. Just want to make sure you ain't got nothing on you.
Little thing about pat downs. When you as a police officer go to pat somebody down, do not put their hands up on the hood of the car. Take their hands behind their back, have them interlace their fingers like they're praying, and then you grab a hold of that clump of fingers. If you do this right now and you put your hands together nice and tight and you hold your fingers together, try to separate your hands. Your knuckles will automatically lock your hands together. So when an officer has somebody interlace their fingers behind their back like they're praying, and then you grab onto this clump of fingers and squeeze down, you can actually lock their hand in. And you can also do it, if they've got their fingers like this, just by grabbing these two fingers if you have small hands. What that's going to do is going to lock this one in place. So if I pinch on these two fingers, it locks that knuckle in place. They're unable to separate their hands. So you've got somebody, even though he didn't hear it, this guy has a weapon on him. He has a weapon in the car. You want to maintain control of that suspect by putting their hands up there, and then you're in a vulnerable position where you have maybe a hand on their back and you're going down, you're touching their legs and stuff. Their hands are free. They can put you in a headlock. They can turn on you. They're actually in a position of power over you. So this is not the proper way to do a pat down search.
You ain't gonna try to do nothing, I ain't. Ain't nothing in it?
The other thing is, he told this guy, hey, I'm going to pull you out of the car. I'm going to pat you down for weapons real quick. He pats him down on the one side, and then the other side, he sees a pack of Black & Milds. This is a pat down search for weapons. This is not a search for contraband. If you want to search somebody that comes out of a car, you have to have a good reason to search them. You have to have reason to believe that there's something illegal in their pockets other than a weapon, or you have to have consent. In this particular case, I haven't seen anything from this guy. I haven't seen any indicators that he believes that what he pulls out of that guy's pocket was a weapon. And also, when you feel something, if you feel something in somebody's pocket and you're like, not sure what it is, you're like, hey, this isn't a weapon, but what you got in your pocket right here? You know, I don't have anything I can demonstrate with. But you're like, hey, what is that in your pocket? And they might say, oh, that's just a Black & Mild. You're like, it's just a Black & Mild, right? It's not weed, because if it's weed, I'm going to figure it out. Then they'll be like, no, it's weed. Or they'll be like, no, it's not. It's just a Black & Mild. Leave in the pocket, or, if you can articulate, hey, I felt this baggie and in it I can feel a crumbly substance, and I know that this was marijuana, or I know these are crack ripes, or I know that this was meth. Then you can articulate, hey, I felt something I knew for a fact was illegal contraband. I pulled it out of his pocket. The deputy didn't do this. So if he found something in that Black & Mild pouch, I don't believe that this would be admissible in a court. I think it was a bad search. And then here he is looking in there. Then they have a little conversation.
But before we go any further, there's nothing in the vehicle.
I think that's my
All right, so this is a good spot to stop it, actually. So the deputy clearly did not hear the guy say that he has a firearm in the car, because he keeps asking him, do you have anything in the vehicle? I think this is probably a good point to tell people that as a police officer, when you're asking people questions on the side of the road, you need to ask questions that are going to give you answers that you require. Anything in the vehicle is too broad of a question. If you were to pull me over and ask me if I have anything in my vehicle, you're going to get a smart ass response from me. Yeah, I got a couple kid seats in the back. I got my gear bag over there. I got my light, whatever. I'm going to tell you about all my empty water bottles and stupid shit like that I have in my car. If you ask me, hey, do you have any weapons, guns, knives, firearms, explosives, chemical devices, poison gas, anything like that? Do you have any of those types of things in your car? I have two choices. I can lie to you, which often when people are lying, it's easy to kind of spot, and you can start to drill down into that, or they're going to tell you the truth. Regardless, here is a situation where the deputy says, hey, do you have anything in the car? Or here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to search your car, make sure you don't have anything in there. The guy already told him that he has a firearm in the car. So it's really pointless at this point in time to even bring this up. Now, I don't know if he said it yet, but in a second he's going to say, I'm going to have you sit in the back seat of my car while I check. I think that's actually what he just said here. Now, this is a major problem. He pulled this guy out of the car. He's got him in the rear of the vehicle. He just did a pat-down search. The guy knows that he has a firearm in his vehicle. And the deputy's like, I'm about to go search your car. You're going to come sit in the back of my car. But he has no physical control over this suspect. When you pull somebody out of a car and you are detaining them, you need to have your hands on that person. Unless they are super going with the program, This guy is obviously not super going with the program. The other thing that he's doing is he's looking back at his door because he's going to make a beeline for that door in a second. These are things that as a police officer, you need to pick up on. So what I would do when I have this guy, I just patted him down. I would still have him facing his vehicle. I would leave my hand on his upper arm, and I would not hurt him, give him a gentle squeeze, and then maybe go down and grab his wrist and say, okay, sir, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you sit down in the back seat of my cruiser while I go up and check your car for weapons, and then I'll come back and I'll talk to you and complete your ticket, and I'll get you on your way. That would be the appropriate way to do it. Just anything that you can do, maintain control of the suspect. He doesn't have a hand on him at all. And the other thing is that if you've got your hand on somebody, you can feel them start to move. You can feel them tense up. You can feel their body energy moving in a certain direction. These are things that the body camera doesn't pick up. These are things that bystanders don't recognize. These are things that an untrained person doesn't recognize. But right here, it's funny. He's wearing a Star Wars shirt. I'm wearing a Millennium Falcon shirt. Total coincidence. Anyway, these are things that an experienced police officer is going to know. And, this is kind of where everything went wrong. Now, I mentioned it before, a lot of police officers in today's world, especially young police officers that have gotten hired in and around and after 2020, situations like this are afraid to put their hands on people. You need to put your hand on this guy. You need to tell him that he's not going to get anywhere near the front door of that car. If he's going to fight you, you want him to fight you back here. You don't want to be fighting him while he's sitting in the driver's seat of his car with the engine running, in command of a Mustang GT. But that's not what the deputy does. So here's the consequence. I still, if this was a brand new police officer that was on coaching and they did this, like, we would be writing them up with anticipation of trying to fire them. That's how serious of a mistake that this is. This is such a serious mistake that if you do this when you're on coaching, you're going to get your ass ripped. Just like he took those steps. You should be on top of him. You should be jumping on him. You should be pouncing on him. You should be taking him to the ground if you think you have to. Anything that you can to keep him from getting back in that car. But no, the deputy is just all lackadaisical, like, hey, don't get back in that car.
Don't get back in the car.
And here we are. So now we're going to go back to the cruiser video and see where we are. And I'm going to mute this because we don't need to hear it. Right here. You see that? Watch how this guy keeps looking over his shoulder. And then the first thing that he does is he turns and he looks at his door. There's 100% with beyond a shadow of a doubt that right here his mind is committed that he's going to get back in that car. And then Deputy Dumbass just hands him his stuff back as he's walking back to the car. No, you need to be jumping on him right there. Never should have taken his hands off him when they were in this area back behind the car. Now the guy's clearly getting in the car. And here you are. Then he jumps in the car, they go down the road, he shoots and kills the guy, gets thrown out of the vehicle, he nearly loses his life himself. These situations are easily avoidable if you appropriately control your suspects. This is why when an officer gets you out of the car and you start saying like things like, why do I need to get out of the car? I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you doing this? You're doing too much. And you start saying, or the officer takes you back behind the car and pats you down, and then you back off and you're like, dude, get your hands off me. These are all danger cues because officers have seen stuff like this play out thousands of times. So if it's me, if it's my traffic stop, and I pull you out of the car and I've got you in the rear vehicle and you try to do anything other than what I tell you to do, you're going to realize who is control of that traffic stop, and that is me. When you're detained by a police officer, you are no longer in control, and police officers need to make sure that people understand that. When people don't understand who is control of the situation, that's where bad stuff like this happens. I don't know what's going to happen in the criminal case. I do know that in the civil case, this guy's family is going to get paid. 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt, this guy's family is going to get paid. There are rules against doing what this deputy did, and the reason there are rules about this is because of exactly what happened. I don't know. I think that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later.